All right, working on the circle track project again. This is the engine that we ran in the other car. This is an engine that I put together 6 years ago, and I talked about it in another video. I did the math on it last night. It has somewhere between 1,500 and 1,800 laps on it. The long story short on this engine block is, or the short block I should say, is this was a 96 truck 350 engine block. So one piece remain seal factory roller block. It was actually given to us because it smoked. I pulled it apart and the cylinder heads on it were junk. The guides were gone. Valve seals were gone. Excuse the dogs barking in the background. They're out there playing. But the bottom end was still good. Cylinder walls still look good. There's a little bit of wear, but nothing crazy there. Tore it down the rest of the way. I found that the main bearings in it were pretty trash. So I went ahead and bought a Scat, just factory replacement type, $189 crankshaft, just a 3.48 stroke. And then what I did is I had a used set of LT1 pistons and LT1 rods out of my LT1 Camaro. So when I did the 383 build, I just put these pistons, rods, and rings on the shelf. I went ahead and honed these cylinders. I reused my rings, my pistons, and my rods that had like 130, 140,000 miles on them, put them in this block. Now, that sounds crazy, but everything was in great shape. The reason for that is the LT1 piston is a flat top with 4 valve relief, so it raises the compression. It's a little bit better piston than just the standard Vortec piston. And the rod is a pretty decent amount better. So went ahead and did that and knew this whole combination was going to be a gamble, if that makes sense. It's kind of going outside of my realm of just doing this on the cheap, and if it breaks, it is what it is, and we'll learn from it. Well, I also reused factory LS1 lifters that I had off of an LS1 cam swap, and then we got a Howard's camshaft for it. I don't remember the exact specs, but it's like, I want to say 560, I think it's 560, 540 lift, or 560, 560, and then it's like 236, 244, 245 on a 110. I have the cam card somewhere. It's a real common cam that I like to use. I should remember the specs a little better. But here's the bottom end of it. You'll notice the rods look a little bit different than, let me tighten this up so it doesn't go flying, than standard small block Chevy, traditional old school rods. These rods will handle 500 horsepower, no problem. I went ahead and put ARP rod bolts in them, and they are the press-in style, so you had to press the old ones out and put the new bolts in. Not a big deal there. Some people say it does egg shape the rod a little bit. You need to get them resized. We didn't. Just, like I said, this thing's going to be on a budget. Let's just gamble a little bit. So somewhere between 15 and 1,800 laps later, I went ahead last night and pulled 3 rod bearings off of it to inspect. And to my surprise, they literally look brand new. I should have took a video last night, and I'm still debating on pulling one back off just to show you guys. But the reason why I hesitate to do that is I don't like to keep retorquing the rod bolts. They do stretch. I just don't like to do that. So I'm going to completely rerun these bearings. Not going to touch it. Super impressed, really surprised. But this combination is holding up. So I'm going to check the main bearings. I still got to do that. It does need a timing chain, which I fully expected. And it's not terrible, but it's got some wear. I'm going to replace it while I'm here. I did put cam bearings in this engine when I assembled it, so I'm not worried about those at all. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed by this. I mean, this is a super budget small block Chevy bottom end. It's, like I said, just a cast Scat crank. It says Scat right there. It's like $189. Old used LT1 rods and pistons. Even reused the rings I had. Put an oil pump in it. a hydraulic roller camshaft, reused some old hydraulic lifters I had. Boom, ready to go. Good short track bottom end. That's held up 15 to 1800 laps at, we've had the rev limiter anywhere between 6,700 and 7,000, depending on gear ratio in the car. I do not want to turn this engine over 7,000. It's just kind of, we're asking for trouble at that point. I like to turn it to like 6,800, really no higher than that, but we have turned it up to 7,000 and it's held up. I'm really impressed, really surprised. If it blows up, it blows up. It doesn't owe us anything, but for now, it's still looking really good. So, excuse me, got something caught in my throat. I'm going to kind of degrease this thing, just clean it all up, put a timing chain on it, put new gaskets on it, put the bottom end back together, and then I'm going to get into these cylinder heads and check in piston to valve. Our old cylinder heads are over here. The valves need replaced in them. Oh man, sorry about that. The valves need replaced. Let me grab a drink of water here. Got a bug stuck in my throat or something. Freaking mosquitoes have been going crazy around here lately. Anyways, the valves need replaced in the old cylinder heads. And we got these cylinder heads for basically nothing. They were thrown in with the car. So I'm going to swap the valve springs off of our old heads, put them on these heads. I want to check piston to valve clearance and see if I can change the rocker arm ratio from a 1.5 to a 1.6. I did the math the other day. That'll get me to like 595, somewhere between 595 and 602 valve lift. But I've got to make sure that's going to fit with this piston being a flat top with a small little 4 valve relief like that. They don't really like these big 205 valves, so you got to be careful there. But yeah, that's going to be the next step here. Like I said, I just got to get it cleaned up. But if you guys are looking for a cheap circle track bottom end, this is the best I've found so far. I mean, I'm blown away. We've got so many laps out of this thing and really no issues. We had those Scorpion rockers that a couple of the clips popped off. I pressed them back together, changed the clips, and everything's been fine there. Nothing ever came apart, nothing like that. We just caught that on maintenance, but yeah. And the other thing, the only reason why the valves wore on our old cylinder heads is they're a used set of heads I had, and they originally had lash caps on them, and I didn't know that. I got the cylinder heads used. Well, I determined when we tore this thing down that those valves actually did require lash caps. That's why some of the tips of the valves mushroomed on those heads, and it was really only like 3 of them. But live and learn there. That's what you get sometimes with buying used stuff. But overall, man, this thing's been absolutely awesome. It's just parts we had laying around, and you can duplicate this really cheap. Guys are giving away LT1 factory rods and pistons when you find someone that's building a 383 or anything like that. So just some ideas for you guys. I'm impressed. I'm happy with it. I'm going to keep pushing this thing until it breaks, at which point we'll see what broke and evaluate it from there and see what our options are. But I am just thoroughly impressed. So hopefully this helps you guys. If anyone's out there looking to get into circle track racing, thinks they need a stupid high dollar short block, you don't. You need a decent set of rods, decent set of pistons, a good camshaft. Really all your power's made in your cylinder head, so you do want to have a good set of cylinder heads, but the bottom end just needs to stay together. As long as your clearances are right, everything's going to be happy. That's just a Millings high volume, high pressure pump. I think it's the MV55 or something like that. Nothing fancy there. Did not have any of this balanced. Just literally, like I said, put this thing together. Ignorant, lucky, whatever you want to call it, but it does work. So yeah, hopefully this helps you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll continue going on with this as the engine build process continues. We get this thing cleaned up. For now, I'm going to hop back over on the car. I've got a few more things. I picked up a Honda battery for it. because I'm going to put the battery right behind that fender. Just got a bunch of little things going on, but I wanted to share some of that information with this engine because I see a lot of guys spending a lot of money, and you can clearly do this stuff pretty cheap if you know what you're doing. And with some luck, I'll give it some luck on this one too. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Keep it saucy.